Hello and welcome. Lovely to see you again. In this session, we're actually learning a new movement. It's called Harmonizing Yin and Yang. It's quite a poetic name, and we think about, well, what is yin and yang? So yin and yang is not an absolute in anything. Some people say, nighttime is yin and daytime is yang. But actually, you could not have the concept of nighttime without the concept of day. So they're interconnected and interrelated. What we notice at nighttime is that there is the moon that comes out at night. What is the moon? But it's actually a reflection of the sun. So there's always a little bit of yang within yin, and in the middle of the day, we might see the moon up in the sky. So there's always a little bit of yin within yang. So there is no absolute. So this harmonizing yin and yang is quite a beautiful poetic movement in our body. It comes from the Chen style. The Chen style of Tai Chi is one of the oldest styles of Tai Chi. It comes out of the Chen village. So it's generally a lot more martial. You can really see the martial arts application. So when we're doing this Chen style movement, we need to remember that less is more. Sometimes it's much easier to move in a really big manner, and it's much more challenging just to move in a very small way. So with this harmonizing yin and yang, I really encourage you that less is more. We move from our dantian. We've talked a little bit about dantian in previous movements, but just a reminder, dantian is actually a space. In the West, we call that our center of gravity. It's pretty much where all of our movements are moving from. How do we locate our center of gravity or our dantian? If we have three fingers sideways like this, and you put the top finger on top of your belly button, dantian is at the base of that third finger. So as I said, it's a three-dimensional space. So it's not just this one point, it is a space. The very back of dantian is called Ming Meng, and the front is called dantian. There's some wonderful names. These all come out of traditional Chinese medicine. So another thing to consider with this movement that we'll be learning together, it's all turning from dantian, but because it's a Chen move, where our weight shift is quite different to what we've been practicing in cloud hands and our other movements. Our weight shift goes from 60% of our weight on one side and 40% of the weight on the other. And then all we're doing is shifting 20% of our weight. So now there's 60% in this side and 40% in that side. So it's a very, very subtle weight shift. Sometimes it's a hard concept to get your head around. What is 60% of my weight in one leg? What does that feel like? So I encourage you during the next week, as we're practicing our harmonizing yin and yang, when you're cleaning your teeth, this could be your weight shift, Chen weight shift practice, just shifting your weight from one leg, 40% or 60% into the other leg. Just so you get to start to play with this concept. It's a lovely thing to play with, but can be a little bit to get our head around. So please join me again. We always start with our warm-ups, and then we'll move into our harmonizing yin and yang. So sitting, standing, lying down, whatever you need to do, please do. I'm going to stand for the warm-ups. So again, just finding that lovely posture where we're nice and balanced, even weight on the right and the left side. The lower body is sinking into the earth, and yet the upper body is lengthening up. Good. Let's start with the neck exercise. So we'll do the second neck exercise. So both arms rise. And one hand lowers, the other hand sink the elbow. Turning our neck, And moving back. Changing over. Turning the neck. And coming back. So please remember, we only go about 80% of our capacity. Tai Chi, we never go to the full range of movement. That's where injury can occur. The awareness is on the neck. So if you notice your hips are moving or your kneecaps are moving, try to anchor the waist with the hand near the hip, and it is a neck exercise. So it's actually very un-Tai Chi because we're isolating a joint. Generally, all of our joints move as one, but this is just for the purposes of warming up our neck. Great. Last one, of course, we breathe in. And of course, we breathe out. Fabulous. Let's do one for the shoulder. So gathering the chi, rise and sinking down. Great. Gather, rise and sinking down. In breath. And feel that resistance as we sink down. Fabulous. Moving to the spine. Let's do heaven and earth. Bottom hand, lovely. Spiral up, spiral down. And changing over. Spiral up and down. Great. Keeping the knees soft, keeping the elbows soft. Working in our comfort zone. Stretching up and down. And change. Lovely. Coordinating naturally with our breath in and out. Let's do last one. In and out. Moving into the hips, so the arms rise, weight shift, and nice and wide, step the heel, all of the foot. Changing over, consciously shifting weight. Heel. And keep the spine upright, keep the knee, we're standing on the same height. So like we've spoken about before, trying not to bob up and down. Staying the same height, whether that's flexion or extension of our hip, means the leg we're standing on, it's a much bigger workout. So really feeling that heel, ball of the foot, not changing the angle on our stabilizing. Great. Also brings great sort of mindfulness to the practice when we think about that. I've lost count, so let's do one more. Good. All right. Loose fists down into the knees. Place our foot, toes straight ahead, and shifting the weight. Always check I can see my front toe. Back, look back, and change, heel and toe, weight forward, good, weight back, that's it. So we're trying to keep the joints aligned, the hip, the knee and the ankle are all going the same direction. I'm not twisting my knee. Good, and change. And I've got that lovely spiral from dantians off center. And I'm spiraling forward and spiraling back. Last one either side. Push forward, but the other hand pulls back, that yin yang. Final one. If something's going forward, something must be coming back, otherwise we'd fall over. Okay, so down into the ankles, heel and toe. Flexion, extension. Good. Of course, we keep our eyes at the horizon, or actually one ox cart away from our body. That's what the classics say. That's where our gaze softens and looks at. Fabulous. Let's work our hands a little. So stretching and relaxing. Open and close. Breathing in and out. Let's do some meridian massage. This is lung, large intestine. Relax the shoulders. Good. And then we turn the hands up and it's just along the little fingers. Just tapping. Good. And then it's the little fingers and the thumbs. So if you're looking at it, see those ones in the middle? They don't actually contact. So it's just the thumb and the little fingers touching. The fingers can face up if that's comfortable. And then it's fingertip, fingertip, fingertip. That's tapping, lovely. Then we have, say, the right finger comes forward and we move all the fingers along one and then the left finger's forward. So we alternate the hands, one finger forward, then the other. Right, and we keep breathing, we relax the shoulders. So have you got the idea that we're literally moving them out, moving them all along one. Moving them out, moving all along one. Yeah. Takes a little bit to rewire the brain. And bringing the chi to the hands. Lovely, shaking out. Rightio, let's go through what we've learnt so far. Our feet start together. We need 3 steps to your left. So I'm going to go over here a bit so I don't go off the screen. Focus. Body upright. Tongue on the top palate helps to relax the jaw. Tai Chi for rehab. Let's begin. Separating our foot to the side, your left foot out, and adjust. Palms opposite. This is a Sun style movement. Sink the elbows, fingers face the sky, bending our knees. 3 breaths in and out. The whole body breathes in and out. Last one, bringing the breath down to the belly. And down. Waving hands in the clouds, your left hand up, right hand down. Stepping out parallel to the left. Turn, stepping in. Stop. Swap. And turn. Stepping out left. Stop. Swap. And turn. Good. Remaining the same height. Stop. Turn. That's number 2. Fantastic. Step. Turn. Stepping in. Stop. Turn, we come back to our center. Open and close. You can pass the ball forward and close the ball. Shaking out. I'm going to show you our next movement, the harmonizing yin and yang. We go to the left first, which I think that's your left, so I'm going to do it mirror image. Okay, so harmonizing yin and yang looks like this. And then we do it on the other side as well. Okay, we're going to break it into small chunks and learn it step by step. I'm going to come a little bit closer so you can see what's going on. So from holding our hands in front of the heart, what we're going to do, is that your left, I think? Yeah, that's your left, good. We're going to imagine we're holding something between our hands and the hands are going to drop down. And because I'm going to turn Dantien, if the hands drop down and I turn Dantien, they'll come down just around Dantien to your left hip. Okay, let's try that again. So It's the dropping of the hands down, but it's the turning of Dantian to bring the hands down. Great. So one description has been, let's try once more. One description is like we're holding a box or something. Here we go. I've got a remote control for my aircon. So we turn and it's like we're holding something in our hands. Yeah, got that concept? The palms are still opposite. Great. Let's add the next beat. So the hands drop down beside us. What I'm going to do is let the fingers drop down to the floor, and I want the wrist to bend over towards your left. Good. Let's try. So hands drop down, turning Dantian. Let the fingers drop down, and as the fingers drop down, to me it's like a sort of pulling up, and the wrists go towards your left. So again, if I'm holding something, I'm sort of, I don't know whether I can do this, hold something between my wrists, like this, yeah? Because the next action, I'm holding something between my wrists, the next action is I turn Dantian, and that's what brings the hands across. See, they're still the same distance apart, yeah? Okay, let's try. So from here, we turn Dantian, drop the hands down, and then let the hands sink down. Lift up the wrists, and now turn Dantian, and let the arms follow. Imagine the fingers are sort of stroking the top of some water or something like this. They sort of unfold until they come over in front of the other hip, which must be your right hip. Good. Again. And hands drop down. Beautiful. Lift up the wrist, which drops the fingers down. Turn Dantian. As I turn Dantian, allow the hands to float across like I'm pulling the water across. And now what I'm going to do is lift my wrists. As I lift the wrist and I turn Dantian, bring that box or whatever I'm holding up in front of my left shoulder. Great. And of course, my shoulder, elbow and wrist is all in alignment, but I'm slightly off center towards the left. And relax. The lovely move, this one, harmonizing yin and yang. Let's try. And begin. Turn Dantian, drop the hands down, drop the fingers, lift the wrists and turn Dantian. Let the hands float across like the water until it's over on the other hip. And then I drop the fingers and lift, or I lift the wrist, which drops the fingers, and I turn Dantian. And I bring the hand up, so they're in front of the left shoulder. Good, and relax. So if you imagine, at the moment, we've come down here, and we've drawn a sort of big Z back to front. So it comes across here, and then I cut across here to the shoulder. Yeah, so I'm across, and then on a diagonal up to the shoulder. So from the hip across on the diagonal. Got that? Good. And let's try. Hands drop down. Dantian turns. Drop the fingers. Lift the wrists. Beautiful. Turn Dantian. That's what sort of pulls the hand across. Lovely. Lift the wrist. And bring the hands up. Like we're still holding something. So I've still got my remote control between my wrists. Oh. You get the idea, it's hard to put there. Yep, excellent. So what we're going to do now, the easy version is from here, just turn Dantian back to the front, we hold the ball, we breathe in and out. Okay, that's the easy version. Maybe we'll start with the easy version. I think that's good. A Chen style movement is quite different to a Yang or a Sun in the weight shift. In the Yang style movement, we have 70% of our weight on one leg and 30% on the other. In the Chen move, we have 60% of our weight on one leg and 40% on the other. So when we're actually slightly shifting weight as the hands move across, it's very subtle. It's moving from 60 to 40% weight and then back again. Does that make sense? Yeah, so we're not double weighted. That's a very unsafe way to be in a martial art, but it's only 60, 40%. So let's try and we'll think about that weight. So here we are, double weighted, very unsafe. Let's move 60% of our weight to the left, hands down. Lift your wrist, so we're still 60% of the weight left. So now shift the weight right, 60% of your weight's right. Lift your wrist, which the fingers flop down, and shift 60% of your weight to the left. Good. And then we find an arc to come back to our center. We breathe in. We breathe out. Pass the ball forward and close the form. And shaking out. It's a lovely movement. Let's do final run through of the movement for today. So from our open and close, harmonizing yin and yang, back to open and close. Let's begin. Open and close. So drop the hands, turn dantian. It's all driven by dantian, these movements. Drop the fingers, lift the wrists, and dantian turns. 60% of the weight moves across. And lift the wrist. Dantian turns up in front of the shoulder, the left shoulder. Good. So it's only shoulder height, not too high. And then dantian turns, which comes back. Open and close. Pass the ball forward and close the form. Shaking up. Well done. Feel the lovely connection with the earth. Again, those roots coming from our feet. Deep into the center of the earth they connect. And yet the bahui, the top of the head, reaching up. Tai Chi for rehab. Let's begin. Your left foot goes out to the side. And adjust. And sinking down. Open and close. Again, what's the relationship between dantian and the open and close? Cloud hands to your left, yang style, left hand up. Stepping left. Turn. Stepping in. Stop. Stop. Again, connecting to the dantian. So how does dantian stretch the foot out? How does dantian turn the hands? That relationship between. There's a piece of string between dantian and the hands. How would they connect? Or elastic is probably the best thing in a piece of string. Good. Feeling the connection. Nice. That's looking really lovely. I can see the elastic between you and your dantian. Well done. And back to our. Only one. Harmonizing yin and yang. So we learned yesterday, dantian turns slightly, hands drop with gravity to your left. Drop the fingers and lift the wrist. Dantian turns slightly to the right, which brings the hands across to your right. Dantian turns, which brings the hands up in front of the shoulders. And we did We just turned Untitled. We brought the hands in front. Breathed in and out. Close the form. And that's what we did yesterday. And relax. So can I double check? That's your left? Yes? Yeah, good. Okay, thank you. So the first one is the hands move to your left. And again, we talked, it's Dantian is turning. If Dantian didn't turn, my hands would just move straight down the midline. But because my Dantian is turning, that's how the hands move in front of the hip. We're going to do it on the other side. So that must be your right. So that's your right, okay. So let's drop the hands down. Let the hands go down to the right. Oh, that feels a bit odd. Let's try that again. All right, so drop the hand, turning Dantian. Good. Okay, good. Try not to let the fingers drop down or the chi falls down from the fingers. So we're still sort of holding the hand. Yesterday, what did I have? I had something in my hand. So let's try. So hands turn. I'm still holding something. Excellent. Yes, that's much, much better. Well done. Once more, just to be sure, Very small turn, Dantian. Good. So now, when I lift the wrists, see when I lift the wrist, that's when the fingers drop down. Reminds me of like a ribbon on a rope or a ribbon on a stick. Did you ever as a kid, get a stick and put a ribbon on it and move it around? No? Okay. Well, that's what it reminds me of anyway. So when we're down here, if I lift my wrists and drop the hands, and then guess what happens? I turn, Dantian, and the hands move across. So I've still got something between my hands if I want. I've dropped the fingers and I'm turning Dantian and the hands move across. So there's always the equal distance between the hands. And what is that distance? Is it your remote control for your aircon? Perhaps it is, but it's basically about your head. Okay, that's the distance. So it's the same as this one. It's about that distance. So let's try. So we know part one, hands drop down to the right side. Now, drop the fingers or lift the wrists, whatever works best for your brain. Turn Dantian and see how the fingers sort of flow through water. So the wrists are heading the way we're going. So now we're going to turn Dantian and bring the hands up in that opposite shoulder. So it would be your right shoulder. And then we turn Dantian and we bring the hands back to the center. Open and close. Okay? Again. So part one, turn Dantian, down to the right hip. Up to drop the fingers, lift the wrist and shift weight slightly to the left. Okay, so now turn Dantian, lift the weight, lift the hands up to the shoulders and shift the weight. And then we turn in an arc or a curve back to our center, hold our ball, open and close. Good. So remember yesterday we discussed Chen style, which is what this is. The weight shift is only 60-40, so it's a very subtle weight shift. Let's put it together. So we'll try going to the left first of all, and then we'll do an open and a close and immediately move into the right. Okay, we've got time, good. Okay, so we're going to the left first because that's the first one. Open and close. Turning Dantian slightly left. Good. Lift the wrists and turn Dantian slightly right. Lift the wrists up in front of your left shoulders, fingers relaxed. Shoulders, elbows, wrist down, and then turn Dantian, hold up all. Lovely. Open and close. Now down into the right side. Turn Dantian, Hands lower down. Lift the wrists and turn Dantian. Float the hands across. Good. Lift the wrists and up in front of the shoulder and then back to our center. Open and close. Excellent. So there's two harmonizing yin and yang. This is the basic harmonizing yin and yang. And tomorrow we're going to do the extension of it, so the fancy pantsy part. But what we talked about yesterday that I'd really like to highlight as well is that if we go to the right, the hands move across in a straight line to the hip. From the hip, they go up in a diagonal line in front of the shoulder, and then always an arc or a curve to come back. So it is that sort of straight across, diagonal up, and then move across to the center. Yep, great. I think we've got time to do it once more, both sides, because I really want us to get the feeling in the body of both sides. I'll come a bit closer because my feet don't do much, so you can have a look at the body. Lovely. Open and close. So, turn Dantian, hands lower down. Good. Now lift the wrists, drop the hands, turn Dantian, and let the hands float across the top of some water. That looks good. Turn Dantian, let the wrists lead the action. See the elbows soft and relaxed. Good. Turn Dantian, bring the hands in front of the heart. Open and close. Other side. So turn Dantian, gravity brings the hands down. Good. Lift the wrist and turn Dantian. Let the hands move across water. And lift the wrist, turn Dantian up. Excellent. Turn Dantian back to the center. Open and close. Well done. That was really good. During the next 23.5 hours, a really good practice is literally just turn one side and see how the hands sort of follow. Turn the other side and let the hands follow. Turning from Dantian. So it's that sort of, yeah. But it needs to come from Dantian. So it's not just a random sort of hip move. It's very much in your Dantian. Excellent. All right. We do need to do our cool downs. Hands dropping down. Dropping down. Outside, maybe on the top, loosening our hips, our knees and our ankles. Tightening the body, stretching, and relax. Even stretching the toes out, stretching the fingers. And relax. Stretching those roots down through the floor, but stretching the ba hui up to the heavens. Lovely. Arms gather up. And settle down. Hands gather up. Good. Last one. Gather. Sink down. Bring your feet together. I'll invite you to bring a chair a little closer, or if you want to lie down or stand up, whatever you need to do. It is an opportunity just to sit together. I invite you to close your eyes or just gaze down at the floor. I invite you to bring your awareness within. Just noticing the body. The moment we invite our awareness within, where does it go? Does it go somewhere where it's lovely and warm and relaxed? Or does it go to a part of the body that's a bit tight? It's a bit cool. Again, there's no judgment, it's just an opportunity to notice. We've been using our Dantian a lot. Let's bring our awareness to Dantian. How does Dantian feel right now? Is there a warmth there? Or a coolness? Is it easy to bring my awareness there? Or is it hard to sort of find that part of the body? Just noticing. This time, as we take 3 breaths in and out, let's keep our awareness at Dantian. And as we breathe in and as we breathe out, just noticing what the feelings, the sensations are in Dantian. With your breath in and with your breath out. And when you're finished, gently opening your eyes, coming out of that very short sit. Well done. Harmonizing yin and yang is a lovely move to play with, but initially it can feel a little uncomfortable or a little odd in the body. So I encourage you to practice. Again, you can go back and watch this video again and to the particular area that you weren't too clear on. We will be doing it both sides, so we are nice and harmonized. If we just keep practicing on one side, we might leave here with a limp. We don't want that. So thank you so much for your time and energy for playing Tai Chi with me in my lounge room and inviting me into your home. See you next session.